Good morning, everyone. Hello, how are you? I hope that everyone is doing great. Can you confirm, please, that you can hear me, that everything is working fine? You can see my screen, you can hear me well, yeah? Okay, great. Thank you so much. It's very nice to get to see you all. Nice also to see here some people that I know, like Alex. Hi, Alex, how are you? Also, Guille and Mireia, and well, many others. And to all of you, even if I don't know you yet, that's great. I'm sorry that you had to go through all these previous steps in order to get to this session. We were thinking that maybe we could have, like, I don't know, around 500 people, something like that, in this webinar, but we just doubled the expectations. So that's why we needed to add this previous step of connecting if we were not connected and leaving comments, so that we can actually guarantee that we could have like a fair further steps, per process to get you here. And I'm sorry for all of people who actually commented on the post, but they didn't send the connection. It is not because I want to have so many connections on LinkedIn. It is not actually like that. It is just because probably you know that for sending private messages for LinkedIn, you need to be connected, because if not, you have to send like this credit, LinkedIn, whatever. And it was impossible to have. I think I have like 25 or 50, something like that, but I don't have for everyone. So that's why we had to organize it like that. Okay, so welcome everyone. I think that we can start now. We are a big group of people, as you can see. Sorry, as you can see, this session is going to be recorded. We wanted to have as many people as possible following this. Afterwards, we will publish this video recording on our YouTube channel, so that everyone can follow this very same session that we are having here today. Because we want to comply, obviously, with GDPR. That's why we are not going to, your images are not going to appear on the recording. And I think that maybe we can start. Good morning to everyone. I'm here today from Coimbra, from Portugal. I'm actually delivering this presentation from home. I was thinking about going to the office this morning, but actually I thought maybe Saturday could be cozier to do this presentation at home. And I would like to know, where are you from right now? Where are you staying at this moment? So if you can leave it on the chat, that would be lovely to get to know a bit more. I see that Guillermo is also here in Portugal, Lisbon, Sweden, Vigo, France. Wow, so many people here commenting. Vienna, okay, Spain. Wow, so many. Romania, Novi Sad, Serbia. I love it. I was there a few months ago. Czech Republic. Okay, Amalie is probably enjoying her Christmas time with family. Copenhagen, Bangladesh, Naples. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for your comment. Like I said, I'm here in Portugal, not too sunny today. Actually, we're expecting some rain, but hopefully we will have time also to enjoy the weekend. Well, we're not here to talk about the weather. I will try to go strictly to the point. I have prepared a presentation with 10 questions. I think that they are the most 10 relevant questions that anyone who is willing to present to send their applications for the AD5 graduate competition, AD5 journalist competition. It is the same name. This name, Graduates, has been the same for several years. If you go to a competition from previous years, you will see that Graduates has been the name, just that everyone call it generalist competition, and that's perfectly fine. So do not expect changes because of the name, because the name, it's actually the same one. Okay, first question, who we are, who am I? Just for those of you that don't know me yet, that don't know us yet, my name is Carlos Gil. I'm a training director at EPSO. If you want to get to know more about my profile, you can go obviously to my LinkedIn profile, where you will find everything, my track record that I have done. I just noticed yesterday that my PhD, my experience at PhD, it is not on my LinkedIn, but well, I can tell you also that I researched at the University of Alcalá in Madrid about civil service of the European Union, mostly about talent acquisition within the European External Action Service. So in case that you're interested in that particular field, do not hesitate to send me a message. It's always good to know other EU geeks around the world, so it will be great to get to know you. Here I have today one of my colleagues, Ivan, who is in the chat. I think that he has also turned on his camera, and he will be replying, trying to reply at least to as many questions as possible in chat. I know that it's going to be impossible because of the amount of people that we have gathered here today, this morning, but he will do his best, and I will also do my best in order to give you as much information as possible. Both of us, we are representing a group of 10 people, 12 people, I think that we are right now at the team, who work at EPSO. We are a training company that help people get a position in the EU. We started in a tiny village, like in the Asterix comics, you know. We started in the northwest of Spain, in a tiny village, just to because we had this romantic idea of starting a project, a European project with European dimension from rural area. Later on, we came to Coimbra. From last year, we're also in Brussels, where we usually work from the Merode, close to the Palais de Justice. We also give some trainings for many different universities, like and also institutions, like, for example, the European Agency, the European Institute of Public Administration. We also work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Portugal to help them foster the presence of citizens in the EU institutions, well, and with so many institutions, and also obviously with some individuals who want to get into the EU institutions. Well, we have supported for all competitions in the past 5 years. We also have this training simulator, well, some information about us. Actually, what we do, our main focus is about helping people understand that they don't actually need to do hundreds of or thousands of exercises to pass these competitions, but to actually get to master the main fundamentals, the methodology, what they need to do in order to be successful in this kind of competitions. So that's why actually methodology is almost everything for us. Well, we have some trainings and some itineraries here. If you're interested on that, you can get into our website and check them all. And at the end of the session, I will also share like a small gift that we will have with all of you. If you want to get to know more about what we do, also we have our YouTube channel where we share a lot of information about the European institutions. Like, for example, this webinar about the Blue Book, but we also have a new initiative, which is EPSO's Universe, where we share some videos about EU knowledge completely for free, so that we can help people to get to know a better dimension about the European. Well, but let's go actually to the point, and I want to make a big and sound disclaimer, because what I'm going to share with you here today are a mix of official information from the European institutions and also some other aspects that has not been published by the EU, by the EPSO, but that we expect that runs like that. I will try to be as careful as possible to tell you when that is official information and when there is a dubious speculation, let's say. Well, we are here today because probably most of you want to apply for the AD5 Generalist competition. Everything that you need to know is within the EU Careers EPSO website. Everything that you need to know about official information. And we actually recommend very much that all of you follow official information, because there is a lot of misinformation and fake news regarding these competitions. And I will try to give you the most important information here today, but be careful when you rely on rumors coming from Facebook groups, Telegram groups, all of that, because obviously there will be groups that works perfectly fine and they give valuable information, but there is nothing like real information, official information coming from public sources. Okay, so even if I work in this field and I can say that I'm a specialist in this field, obviously real and relevant information coming from the public institutions is more important than anything that I could say. Even that, like I say, I'm quite cautious when I share information and I always rely on official sources. Well, one of the main questions that I have received during the past months was, so Carlos, we are going to have an AD5 journalist competition in the coming months. Is this going to happen? We will need to wait 6 years after the next competition. And I have to say that no, it is not like that. Actually, when the EPSO published the competition in 2019, they were expecting to continue delivering new competitions on generalist competition in the years to come. But that couldn't happen because we had like the perfect storm. We had the COVID-19 situation, as you probably remember, if you are in this field or following the EPSO for many years. Before 2020, the exams were done on site in prometric centers, which were spread around the world. And with the COVID-19 situation, that couldn't happen anymore. So the EPSO needed to have a transition towards a remote testing environment. We also had a report from the European Court of Auditors that actually told EPSO that they needed to implement some big changes in the selection, mostly on specialist competitions. If you want to get to know more about that, ECA report obviously is published and is from 2020. And it is worth mentioning that the generalist competition actually was not a problem for the European Court of Auditors. It was more about the time that the EPSO was delivering on completing the actual competition. And I have to say something else, that probably it is not what many of you will expect. Obviously, I have a professional relation with EPSO, but I don't have like intimate relation, let's say, with them. And I don't owe them anything and they don't owe me anything. But what I have to say is that I know, because I've been following this, both a researcher and also a professional working in this field, that EPSO has been working hard in order to deliver this AD5 journalist competition. Sometimes the image that we get, and I am the one who is completely tired of this situation, but I have to say that EPSO has undergone and had to face several big challenges, not only because of technical circumstances, but also in the interinstitutional meetings. Just for you to know, EPSO is an interinstitutional organization in the sense that it works with a board of the different institutions. And sometimes the institutions have different views, and sometimes it's difficult to get some agreements and to foster the process and continue delivering. So I have to say that EPSO has been working quite hard in the previous years, and everything that had to deal with was actually a perfect storm. Okay, obviously there are so many things to improve, and I'm quite critic regarding that, but I think that it's worth also mentioning that. And also had to deal with this EU test provider change because of some reports from the European Ombudsman and the data protection supervisor, who decided that having an American company delivering this this test was not feasible, so had to change the provider for 2 times now. And we hope that with the new provider, TAO, which will be starting in a few months, we will actually have all the means that are needed to have the competitions. And we are in the point where you are also with me here, and it is that a few days ago, I think it was on Tuesday, EPSO published that will open the generalist competition for applications in the first half of February. Okay, so this is what we are expecting now. Many other competitions will be published in the upcoming months, and probably some of the questions that one of the key questions that you may have is, when will the competitions be published and when will the exams take place? Okay, so What we know, actually, what it's happened in every competition is that a couple of months before the publication of the notice of competition, the notice of competition is the document with all the rules and well, every step that will be taken on the competition and the test and everything that is important for the competition is published. But 2 months in advance, usually we have the pre-announcements, like this one over here that talks about the competitions that we will have in 2026, at least a tentative list. Probably other competitions will come, but this is tentative. But when we have the pre-announcement, it's actually because the EPSO is looking to publish in that specific circumstance. Usually they pre-publish an actual date. They have not done that. So what we know now, it is that the notice of competition will be published on February. Usually what it's happened when the notice of competition is published is that you have usually 1 month in order to prepare your application to participate on the EU competition. You have 1 month, but that doesn't mean that in 1 month you will have the exams. Usually you need to, at least with the actual provider, you need at least 2 months in order to have the exams. And for example, right now we are waiting for the first competition that will have the new provider, which is the building specialist competition. They've been waiting now for 3 months, and if they do the exams at the end of January, as it is expected, probably they will have to wait 4 months since the publication of the notice of competition. So what we are expecting, and this is not official, okay, this is what we at EPSO, we think that may happen, and it is to have the exam between April 2026 and July 2026. And actually, if you want my opinion on this matter, I think that it will be closer to summer, or actually in summer, more than in spring. I think that probably if the deadline works fine and everything goes well with the first competition that will have the new EPSO provider, I think that probably will be around June, July. But this is my these are my thoughts, okay? This doesn't mean that this will actually go like this. And if we respect this this tentative calendar, or what I think that may happen, probably around September, or as of September, we will have the result list. Okay, so just to give you this dimension, remember what we know now that is official. It is the pre-announcement saying that in February 2026, we will have the notice of competition. Okay, one of the main questions that I actually get also is, when should I start preparing? And honestly, I don't want to create you any hype. As you know, I work for a company that helps people prepare for the EU competitions. Obviously, we live working on this specific field. My main recommendation is that if you can start as soon as possible, actually, because there are some candidates who has been preparing for several months, even several years for this competition. And I know there are some people who are expecting for the competition to be published in order to start preparing for the competitions. And honestly, I think that that is not a good idea, because that is not going to give you as much time as needed to actually have a wide dimension. If you actually want to prepare thoughtfully and you actually want to understand everything. So if you can, my advice, my piece of advice, it will be to start as soon as possible. Because if we think that this calendar could be actually implemented, you will still have like 6 months to the exams. And that is a fair amount of time, even that usually someone who actually want to prepare deep for these exams, they actually need 1 year, more or less. In terms of time, at least what in our most intense program, our candidates devote around 10 hours in a week for a month, for a year, in order to be fully prepared for the EU competition. So now, if you want to join one of the intense paths, you have to think that at least you will need to be devoting at least 15 hours every week. So that's a big amount of time and decent amount of time that obviously you can do while you're working, but it's time that is needed. If you don't want to get into that intensive program, obviously you have other possibilities like preparing with exercises and packages and only preparing one specific aspect. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. You can also get there. There is not a magic formula to get into the result list. What we do, at least, or what we do with our candidates, is to get as deep as possible to understand and to have the control about all the potential dynamics that they may find on the day of the exam, and that requires some time. So yeah, that's basically it. Another question is, who can apply for the AD5 Graduates competition? This is like fundamental question. Anyone who wants to apply for the AD5 Graduates competition, they need to have an European citizenship. Okay, this is a must. You need to be a national of one of these 27 member states, and also to meet specific job requirements. In this case, for the AD5 graduate competition, you don't need any kind of previous experience, but yes, you need to consider that, for example, you need to have a C1 level in one of the 24 official languages of the EU. If you are national, let's say, of Romania, yes, you can use your Romanian as language number one, and actually it's a good piece of advice to choose your native language for the language number one. And then you have B2 in another language of the EU. So this means that, for example, if you are Romanian, let's say you have a very deep knowledge on Greek, yes, you can choose Romanian as language number one and Greek as language number two. You don't need to choose English or French or German or Italian or Spanish for these competitions. I know that in the past, you had to choose between these 5 languages. Now you can choose any language that you like. And for the other side, another common question, it is if you need a language diploma, and it is not needed a language diploma to participate in these competitions. Okay, you just need to tell that by your honor that you actually have this level of C1 and B2. Obviously, if you have other languages, that is something else that you can bring to the table. This is the minimum, okay? But it is also worth mentioning that in the result list, obviously, people who has a better background and a track record, it is easier to get from the result list. The result list is not most difficult step of this competition, not at all. I will tell you a bit more about that. But obviously, if you have a better understanding of other languages, that's perfectly fine. And also for the AD5 journalist competition, it's expected that you will need to have a completed university level study of at least 3 years. Okay, and this needs to be attested by a diploma. And in case that you have completed these studies abroad, you will need to have this degree recognized. Okay, so for you to know. Like I said a few seconds ago, you can use any of the 24 official languages of the European Union. So if you want to go with language number 1, Lithuanian, and language number 2, Maltese, that's perfectly fine. One common question is the effort worth it? And I have to say that, yes, I usually say that I have probably one of the best jobs in the world because I get to travel a lot. I work with very nice universities and governments, and I get to know many interesting people. Probably if I would not be working on this specific field, I will be working as an EU official because, I mean, it's a challenging job, okay? It is not easy at all, but, well, it is nice to have competitive salary, that's perfectly fine, but you also so many other interesting aspects like level of promotion. For example, if you manage to pass this competition, you will be entering the 85, but you will have until 8016, and you have several steps within one grade. So it's great to work with people from more than 27 nationalities. You have the possibility to change the job and to work different careers within the European institutions. So it is great. And yeah, obviously the salary it's very good. This is the salary that was published by the European Union on April 2025 for the 85 grade, step 1. So this is actually what you get. But my recommendation is that do not think about and this is a personal piece of advice. Do not think about work on the European institutions only because of the salary, because actually this helps you. This allows you the experience of working in one very interesting international organization, let's say, or federal state. We can discuss that in a deeper level in other circumstance. Working on an institution which has very core good levels of let's say values that it is not that usual right now in the international sphere. So yeah, that's something that worth mentioning. And also what you need to know is that most of the people who managed to pass the the EU competitions, they ended up working in Brussels or Luxembourg, sometimes also working in Strasbourg for the European Parliament, for example, or in the representations of the institutions in the different member states, or also in different agencies. There are so many opportunities, but you need to think that at this point, it is not realistic. And this is something that I want to share because I have heard so many different things. It is not realistic to pass an EU competition and work from your member states. There are exceptions, obviously, but there are also temporal exceptions of people working in their own country, in their representation, let's say, or in agencies. But the most common circumstance is to end up working in Brussels or Luxembourg. Around 80% of the staff work from there. Well, I think that it is always good to have that knowledge on the EU institution, visiting Brussels, getting to know the city. It's a vibrant city. It thinks it is not that sunny like in Southern Europe, but it is a city that welcomes everyone, and it is very nice. I was there last week with several candidates, and we always enjoy it very much. Here, I left the QR code where you can see the salaries that were updated for the in April this year. So in case that you want to check it, that's perfectly fine. Okay, what is the selection process and what test will you face in this EU competition? Okay, this is not 100% confirmed because until the notice of competition is published, you need to wait, let's say, but there are some exercises that we know almost 100% sure that will appear on the exam. Everything starts with, or everything begins with the publication of the notice of competition, and that month that you have to prepare for the to prepare your application. It is very important for you to actually devote quality time to the preparation of your application, because at the end of the day, that will be the information that will be needed on the result list. So in case that you have crafted a poor application form the very last day, it's going to be a bit more difficult for you to pass the result list. Okay, so usually people do not talk about this, but this is quite important. Preparing a good and strong application is actually quite important. After that, you will be invited to the text, to the different tests, to the exams. Like I told you, we consider, and this is not official, but what we think is that will take place between now April or July, and you will face reasoning test, a knowledge test, probably digital skills test, and the written test. Okay, and I will tell you a bit more in a few seconds. If you manage to have the most competitive scores in these exercises, you will get into the result list. Something that is worth also mentioning is that all these exercises will take place on the very same day, or are expected to take place on the very same day as it's happened until now. So yeah, usually you need to follow that structure. Okay, another question. What are the tests like that I will have to face? Well, these are the tests. I just told you about it, usually, or at least until the structure that we have right now with the actual provider. Usually in the morning, you have to do the reasoning test. At 1, usually you need to do the knowledge test. And at 3:30, you need to do the written test. Okay. For the AD5 Graduates competition, we will probably have an EUFTE, which is the name that represents a free text essay on new matters. It's a new test that was created by EPSO last year. And we also had the first experience last year with the EUFTE. It's a very similar exercise to the other written test that has appeared on the specialist competition. I will give you more details in a few minutes, but just to let you know that this is the schedule that usually we follow in every EU competition. So after the publications of the notice of competition, you have 1 month, and one change that appeared also I don't know if it was last year or actually this year. Now time it's a bit blurry. We have the single candidate portal, which is a new tool from the that was launched by the European Union. And in this single candidate portal, you have everything that you need to apply for the EU competitions. In the past, we have the EU login, which was another tool, but this tool now only applies for the CAS permanent. Okay, does not apply anymore for the competitions. So you will need to fulfill your application within the single candidate portal, which I think it's a big improvement because you can use information from previous competitions to use it for another ones. And in order to prepare a good application, what I would say it's quite important to also take into consideration that these main 8 competencies are also important to show that you're a valuable person or someone who will be at some value to the EU institution. So this is something that you need to get familiar with. Okay, let's go then to the reasoning test. This is what we know about the reasoning test. You will have verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning. Again, this is not completely confirmed, but you will need actually to face probably these exercises. How does it look? Verbal reasoning exercise, it looks like this. You have a short test of around 600 to 1200 characters about any topic that you can imagine. Then we have several, we have one question, it is always the same one. Which of the following options is correct? And then we have 4 possible answers. If you manage to get the exercise right, you'll receive 1 point. If you don't get the exercise right, obviously you are not going to get 1 point, but they are not going to take any score from you. So this means that it is quite wise to make sure that you solve every exercise that you can face on the day of the exam. Something that is worth mentioning too is that in these last years, we have noticed that the level of difficulty of these exercises has risen a lot. So this is a bad combination with the fact that many people think that this is an easy test. And I have to tell you, this is not an easy test at all. I talk with people about EU competitions and CAST exams and all of that almost every week. And every time that they tell me that they did not manage to pass the exam, it is always because of the verbal reasoning exercise. So be careful with this, okay? Practice it accordingly, because this is, I mean, you don't want to pass all the EU competitions and not getting into the reserve list because you don't get the minimum on the verbal reasoning exercise. The main problem is that sometimes different options are too similar one to the other, and you need to get into the very tiny details and to infer some information that it is not easy at all. Sometimes there are two options that may be correct, but you need to select the one that is the most correct one. Then we have the numerical reasoning exercises. Usually, while you will have 20 exercises most of the time on the competitions for verbal reasoning exercise, for numerical, we usually have 10 exercises, okay? Exercises like this with a big tab, chart, graph with a lot of information, it's more information than the one that you need. Then we have a statement, and then 5 possible answers. Again, if you manage to get the exercise correct, you get 1 point. If not, you don't get any point, but they are not going to deduct or to penalize you. So it is also important to select all the options. And then we have the abstract reasoning, a series of diagrams with several changes. That we have the statement, and then we have 5 potential answers, okay? And you need to choose which one is the correct one. For these reasoning exercises, probably, and again, this is speculation based on what's happened usually, is that probably you will need to get the minimum. The minimum means that for the verbal reasoning test, probably you will have 20 exercises and you will need to get at least 10 out of 20, okay? And for the other side, what we think that is more realistic based on the previous competitions that we had in the previous months is that probably you will need to get the minimum score that will be based on the addition of the score that you will get for the numerical and for the abstract reasoning, okay? So you will need to get a 10 out of 20 out of the addition of your score in numerical and abstract reasoning. And by doing this, you will get the required score. This combination of scores means that, for example, if you get a 10 out of 10 in numerical reasoning and you don't get any point, which is quite difficult on abstract reasoning, you will actually get the minimum on the overall, okay? And this works the otherwise. If you get no score on numerical reasoning, but you get a 10 out of 10 in abstract reasoning, again, you will be fulfilling this exigence of having 50% on the combined score, you will also pass. But imagine that for any circumstance, you get a 10 out of 10 in numerical and a 10 out of 10 in abstract reasoning, but you don't get the minimum on verbal reasoning. Even if you score the most in all the other tests that you will face, you will not reach the minimum score and you will not get into the reserve list, okay? So this is important. If you want to prepare for this reasoning test, we have several courses preparing for verbal, numerical, abstract reasoning. We have some packages. We have right now, if I'm not mistaken, in 5 different languages, but we're expecting from January to have them on the 24 official languages of the EU. We are working to have them translated into the different 24 EU languages in the 3 exercises, verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning. So stay tuned, because this is something that's worth mentioning. Here I'm going to show something that maybe it is not too commercial from my side, okay? But that I think that is important. Do not think that you need to do thousands of exercises to pass the EU competitions, okay? I remember when I started in this world more than 10 years ago, everyone was saying, well, to pass the verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning, what you need to do is like doing many exercises, as many exercises as possible. And I have to say that from my humble opinion, that is not something wise to do. Probably if you do like 800 exercises, for example, and you manage to do them the right way, this means on a real platform with time constraint, with a virtual calculator and scratch pad, and also if you devote as much more time to have a review of the exercises after you complete the exams, that will actually do as many exercises as possible, that is something that is going to have a big impact on you. So it is more about reflecting, about getting to know the methodology, and this is something that we are a bit crazy about it. It's okay. We try to understand all the tiny elements that make the candidates more efficient, to understand not only why an exercise is solved with a GDP formula, for example, but how to identify that we have a GDP exercise, and how to identify that maybe, for example, we need to do a weighted average after that first step, for example. So try to understand. I'm not telling you this so that you buy our services. Obviously, that's good for us, and we live out of that, and that's perfectly fine. But maybe some of you think that you don't have the means to do the investment. And if I can share a piece of advice to you, is that even if you don't have as many exercises as possible, but you have time to learn from that, it is something that you can do. It is what we did when we started creating the methodology. We examined all the potential exercises that we could, thousands of exercises, to understand the logics behind. And by doing this, you can get efficient when solving the exercises. Well, after the reasoning test, you will need to perform the knowledge test, the EU knowledge test. This is going, or is expected to be, a test probably based on 30 questions about EU institutions and policies of the European Union. Until now, the EPSO has not published any outline or any summary on the topics that could appear on the exam, and this has worked like that for the specialist competition so far. It makes sense, because what EPSO thinks about the specialist competition is that you don't need to have a framework, because if you apply for that specific competition, is because you say that you're a specialist on that field. So you should have the experience to understand what is important and what is not that important. Regarding this EU knowledge exercise, a lot has been said regarding the potential approach that the EPSO will have regarding the EU knowledge. It has been said that EPSO was working on a summary, on an outline with different sources that may appear on the exam, and that could be published with the notice of competition. That is something that has been said some time ago. Okay, it has been. I have not heard about it in recently, but has been said. My main advice, anyways, is that you should not wait until the competition is published, because, again, you need to start actually studying for the EU knowledge, and getting to know the institutions and the main policies of the European Union is something that you can do. It's something that we do at EPSO. We have created some thematic units working on that, but it is something also that you can find for free on some EU resources, like, for example, the Publications Office of the European Union or EURLEX. They are official sources and they are free of charge. Okay, this is something that you need to consider. Like I said, we have created a postgraduate program for EU institutions and policies, and we have gone quite, we have been working for 3 years in order to build that. And obviously it is, well, we try to keep it tuned. Almost every month we make some changes, and it's perfectly fine. But the main difference is that the main help that we follow through our postgraduate program, it is that, well, the candidates do not need to think about what is important, because we have already undergone that those specific steps. But it's something that, again, you can do for yourself. So do not think that actually you need to pay thousands of euros in order to pass these competitions. Okay, what we can do for you is to make your path as easy as possible. Like if you were athletes preparing, you go to training and you have everything prepared, and that's something quite nice to have. But again, this is not magic. Okay, this is based on work, and if you have the time and you have the possibility to do it, you can build it by yourself. And then we have one key question. It's about digital skills. Is this digital skills test is going to appear on the AD5 graduate competition? I would like to say that yes, that it is something that will appear, but again, it is something that I have not heard too much about it recently. I think that actually will appear, okay? But this is my opinion. This is not something that the EPSO has reinforced recently. I was in an event some time ago, and the EPSO said that digital skills test was going to take part on the AD5 Graduates competition, and that its score was going to be competitive. Okay, this is something that was said, but it is also worth mentioning that the official who said that was part of the previews of the former directive of EPSO. As you probably know, I think it was in April this year, if I'm not mistaken, the EPSO changed its direction. Mina Buorio left the EPSO after it changed, after it came to an end her term, and also many people left the EPSO, and Olivier Sal, the new EPSO director, is working on this, but they have not said anything regarding digital skills, at least to my knowledge. Okay, something that I can tell you. But if we have the digital skills test, which I think that we'll have, let's see, is going to be assessing 5 main digital skills areas. Okay, and probably what we know, at least what we have heard in these past years about the digital skills test, is that should have 42 questions to be solved in 30 minutes. And the kind of questions are related to, the basics of digital skills. What is the purpose of a firewall? How does it work? Wi-Fi, what kind of device you need to connect to the internet? What is a browser? Some elements that for the ones of you who are young are quite easy. Probably for some colleagues who are over 50, sometimes it could be more challenging. Okay, so again, this is not completely confirmed that the digital skills test will take place. They have said that, but we have to wait until the notice of competition to see it. And after those tests, we have the written test. And we have 3 different kind of written tests that were introduced by the EPSO last year. These 3 ones are the written test, the field-related written test, and the free text essay on EU matters. Okay, just to give you some context, the field-related written test, it is an exercise that has not appeared yet in any competition. Okay, it's happened the same that with digital skills, probably will be applied at some time, but has not been applied yet. The written test has been applied for a specialist competition. So this means, for example, that building a specialist who will have the exam next month, probably they will have a written test based on the field of that competition. That means that the base document that they need to work on is related to the field, okay? But no knowledge, it is assessed on the written test, only written communication skills. And then we have the free text essay on EU matters, the EUFTE, which is the test that I would say 99% of possibilities of appearing on the AD5 journalist competition. What is the main difference with the written test? It is that it is not focused on the field of the competition. So for the AD5 journalist competition, the base document could be about anything that you can imagine. For example, we have an EUFTE last year exam that took place, if I'm not mistaken, in December. It was the one for assistance in the field of accountability, also public procurement. And it was another field that I know, and finance, yeah. So they had an EUFTE, and the base document was about drug trafficking. So it was nothing related to the field. So this means that for the EUFTE, the dynamics are super similar to the Britain test, just that the topic could be related to anything. In this kind of Britain test, they are going to assess 5 anchors. And this is something that actually you need to know. It is quite important. Okay, you need to know that when you are writing the document, you are not just delivering a task. What you are doing is writing a document that should be also focusing on these 5 anchors. You need to write something that follows a logical flow of ideas, that is concisely, without the use of unnecessary words, that it is presented in an understandable way, that it is also written for the audience and purpose, and that uses the information. And this is important, okay, because many people usually focus only on using the information that is provided on the base document. But the other elements, which are formal and also content elements, are as important as using the information that is provided, okay? Just to give you a few examples, here you can find some documents that were applied for different competitions. This is the document that was applied for the EUFTE that I was referring a few seconds ago. This is, for example, a report from the European Court of Auditors that was used for the competition in the field of nuclear safety. So just to give you these 2 examples, okay, for you to know. The dynamics about this test is that 14 days before the day of the exam, this base document will be published. Okay, this is not going to be published with the notice of competition. This will be published 14 days before the exam. So you will have 14 days to prepare that document that will be published, okay? And on the day of the exam, you will find a task that you need to perform. So this is basically how the Britain test, and in this particular case, the EUFTE works. In case that you want to prepare with us for that, we have several focus groups. We have also training on Britain test, and what we do actually is when the document is published, we check the document, analyze the document, and try to give you as many insights as possible, and to prepare some Britain test focused on that specific document, so that you are well trained for the real exam. If you manage to get a good score on the reasoning, or the minimum on the reasoning, a very good score on the knowledge and digital skills, and to pass the minimum on the EUFTE, you will get to the result list. So to give you this context, what you need to know is that until now, in most of the competition, on the specialist competitions that we had, the ones that got into the result list were the ones that get the minimum in the result list, that get the minimum in the EUFTE or Britain test, and that manage to have a competitive score for the knowledge test. So what makes the difference here for the EU competitions is this knowledge test. Let's see if the digital skills test appear on the AD5 Graduates competition test, and let's see if a competitive score will be required. That's something that we need to wait to see. But my main advice, like I said, is start preparing now for the reasoning test and for the knowledge test. Start studying about EU institutions and the main EU policies, because what you need to have, this is something that you can do right now. You need to focus on the EUFTE on the days before the exam. And if you need to go with everything, probably it's going to be difficult to find the right time to deal with that. Okay, another question that it is usually, well, that has appeared very much on my inbox these days is how many posts will be available for AD5 graduate competition. And this is something that I can tell you based on an official announcement, okay, that was made on June 2025. I want to be quite clear about this, because a lot has been said about the number of positions. People saying that we would have like 1,200 people, that we could have even 1,500 people, other ones saying something else. What we know, what we can share with you is that in this official event of the EPSO, Shaping Europe's Future Together, they said that more than 1,000 positions will be published, which will be a historical numbers of positions. Because if you go to the previous competitions, you will see that usually it was going between 100 and 200. Here, it will be multiplied by 5. It will be compensating, let's say, the number of positions that were not published during these past years. Let's see how it goes with the publication of the notice of competition, but this is what has been said by the EPSO. Okay. Another common question is if these competitions are going to be published annually from now on, if every year we will have an AD5 graduate competition. And this is something that I cannot confirm, obviously, because I don't have that information. I think that this is my guess, that probably the EPSO don't have also a real, let's say, decision regarding that. What I can tell you for sure is that you won't need to wait 6 years, because this is a very uncommon situation, the one that we had. Probably we will start having again the competitions every year, or maybe every 2 years. I heard from a good source that they were planning to have reserve lists that were a bit more extended than the ones that we had until now for the AD5. The AD5 had usually a reserve list of with a validation of 1 year, maybe 2 years, but this is my guess again. Okay, what we know for sure is that the EPSO will publish these positions, and they have not said anything about having these competitions every year, coming back to those cycles that usually appear before 2020. Regarding the preparation, this is something that depends very much on you, how you should approach the preparation for the AD5 journalist competition. I can tell you what we do in case that you are interested, but also in case that maybe you want to take some tips from here, okay, and to adapt it to your own plan or to your own path. What we do, we have the VIA EPSO International. It is a very strong program. It is the most intense one, which was opened positions a few days ago. There are more than 100 live group sessions. We have sessions every week, at least 2 sessions per week. We have more than 45 sessions divided in more than 180 videos. Okay, there are so many hours of working together. One tutor at your disposal, practice with our simulator that replicates the same circumstance that the ones that you can find, or a very similar circumstance that the one that you can find on the day of the exam. We work week by week. We are working currently in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Italian, with the sessions in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Also with materials in French and Italian, but like I told you, we will have the exercises in more official languages in January. Then you have a careers department, and also that postgraduate program that I was talking to you about. We have created this program with deep knowledge about the European Union, written by specialists on the field, that covers the main EU institutions, Commission, Parliament, Council, European Council, European Court of Auditors, agencies. We are covering also the legal dynamics of the European Union. We are covering also the competences system of the European Union. We are covering, I'm just talking out of memory, okay? So the environmental policy, common foreign and security policy, everything that we think is possible to appear on the day of the exam. And later on, if actually the EPSO published sources, we will undergo all those sources and work on that, creating many more test exams. More questions. I have some bonus here. What about the platform? So EPSO changed the platform some years ago. It went from Prometric to TestWe, which is the actual provider. This is going to change. Okay, the EPSO launched a new tender a few months ago, and the tender came to an end. And it is a French company, Tao, who won that tender from January 2026 with the 87 building specialist competition. We will have the first experience with Tao. Okay, so that's why I cannot give you more insights regarding Tao than this screenshot that I took from a tutorial from Tao, from its YouTube channel. If you want to go deeper, you can go there. But probably the interface is not going to be like this on the EPSO competition. So probably in the upcoming weeks, before we have the 87 building specialist competition, we will have news regarding that. And as soon as I have some news, I will post in that also on LinkedIn. I try to get very active, sharing as much information as possible over there. Coming again to the minimum score, remember for the reasoning test, usually it works like this, or at least has worked like this in many competitions so far, to get a 50% out of the combination of numerical and abstract, and 10 out of 20 on verbal reasoning. Regarding the EU knowledge, usually you need to get at least a 15 out of 30, but most of the time you need to get a competitive score for your knowledge. And probably that is going to happen on the AD5 graduate competition. What is a competitive score? This depends obviously on the level of difficulty of the questions that may be posed on the exam. But usually from previous competition, I can tell you that probably will be around 80 to 85% of the options correct. Okay. This doesn't mean that for sure it's going to be like that. But when we had competitive competitions in the past, usually we had this kind of competitive score. Regarding the digital skills, well, it is possible that you will need a competitive score based on what EPSO said regarding that, but we don't have much information. And this is a very dubious speculation, okay? It's something that I don't know for sure, but probably if we have 42 questions on these skills, probably you'll need to get a 21 out of 42. And for the EUFTE, probably possible you will need to get only the minimum required score. In previous circumstances, sometimes you needed to have at least a competitive score. It was a weighted average between the score that you could get on EU knowledge and the one that you could get in the EUFTE. But for this specific competition, and again, this is my guess, this is not official, we will organize a new webinar once that the competition is published, or when we have more information about this, and I will be confirming this information based on public sources. But what I can tell you until now, it is what it is. And another common question, is it easy to get in the result list? I'm almost ending this presentation, okay? And after that, we could have some time to solve other questions that you may have. Is it easy to get in the result list? It is not easy, okay? You can hear, or maybe you can read on the internet, people saying that getting a position in the result list on any EU competition is easy, that you don't need to study, that it only takes some months, and that actually if you pay something to a certain company, by paying, you are going to be also already on the result list, because they are going to give you the magic potion to get that. Okay, I have to tell you that that is not true at all. Okay, this is a very competitive, that's the name, EU competition, okay? It is a competitive ecosystem where you need to get as competitive as possible. So do not trust all these easy messages, because obviously if this will be easy, there will be so many people working every year on the institutions, and it doesn't work like this. These are not competitions that are known by the common, let's say, not every citizen knows about this competition. That is true, but the ones that apply, usually they have a profile that it is more into these EU competitions. But what I can tell you is that it is not difficult because of the amount of people that apply for these competitions. It is true that these competitions get a lot of people. We could have more than 20,000 people applying for the AD5 graduate competition. At least in the past, it was close. I think it was in the last competition where they were close, 18,000, something like that. Probably for this competition, we will have more people. But what I can tell you, and this is a common trend, let's say, that I see, is that people usually accommodate when they are preparing for the AD5 graduate competition or for any competition. They say, okay, I will wait, I will do some exercises before the day of the exam. I already work for the EU institutions as a contract agent or temporary. I know how this works. I already went through other 2 other competitions. And what I can tell you from our experience at EPSO, we have people who already work on the EU institutions, but usually the percentage of people who manage to get in the results list and pass the competitions, usually they are not already working on the EU institutions, okay? Because these people who are not working on the research institutions find more time to practice, find more time to get into that, while the people who are already working, they say, okay, I'm quite familiar, I know, I will do some tests before that. And honestly, it doesn't work like this. It is true, obviously, that if you have previous experiences, even if this competition does not require experience, it is easier to pass the result list. Once that you are over there, it is easier to get a position, that is true. But to get actually to pass the EU competitions in that selection process, I don't think that working in the EU is a competitive advantage. And from my experience, what I can tell you is that the one that managed to get there is the one that it is quite consistent and every day devote a bit of time to prepare, to get as much prepared as possible. Based on our guess, this is again a guess, probably around 10% of the people who actually apply for the competitions, they are the ones that they are really competitive, the ones that has been prepared, devoting time, that they get to know everything that is needed. Okay, so independently on the way that you prepare, if this can help you anyway, just think about that it is good to be consistent on this. It's like getting fit. If you go to the gym one day, obviously, it will have an effect. But if you are there for 50 hours in a row, let's say, obviously, probably you are going to get injured. That is not the solution. The solution to get fit is actually to get healthy, is to do everything every day a little bit. Okay, something else that I want to tell you is that passing from the result list, it is not difficult. From our experience, usually candidates need around 2 to 6 months, okay? You need to get a proactive mindset. Once that you actually know what to do on the result list, where to find the opportunities, how to reach the people that you need to reach, it is not that difficult. The result list is just the hiring process. It is not the selection process. And the result list usually have some interviews. And finally, I just wanted to end up this presentation just by telling you that be careful with misinformation, okay? And be careful with what people say in random forums or random groups or whatever, because we have noticed that some people are spreading fake news. I don't know, because they want to make the other people feel uncomfortable and they think that that is going to be a good approach. But what I can tell you is that always, again, rely on public information coming from official sources. This is the most important thing, the piece of advice that I want to tell you. And something else, and this is the very, very, very end of my presentation, do not think that these competitions and working in the European institutions is reserved for superheroes or for people with special powers. It is not. It is about following the right path. It is like committing yourself with that objective that you have. Actually, you can make it. We had a gathering of some candidates last week in Brussels, and we had, for example, one of our candidates, Carmen, who was 55 years old when she started with the competition. She was quite clear that she was going to make it, and she actually made it. She had no previous relation with the EU institutions. She hadn't any experience from before, but she was sure that she wanted to do it, and she committed herself. She was preparing for almost a year, and she made it. Obviously, not everyone who commits to it make it. That's obviously that is quite easy to understand, right? It is impossible to guarantee that everyone will make it. But what I can tell you is that those who actually work on it, who devote time, who are focusing on that, at some point they made it. And probably, I don't know, maybe they can do it. Like Carmen, for example, the first time that they applied for it. Sometimes, like other candidates that we had on that frame table, they need more competitions to pass. Maybe sometimes it's about getting a Blue Book traineeship or a Cicero traineeship, or to build its career while they are preparing, and that's perfectly fine, and get a new job, and later on they pass through a external competition like this one, or maybe an internal competition. There are so many paths to get into the EU institutions. What you need to think about it is if you actually want to get that objective, and if you want to get it, what are the steps that you want to follow, and also believe in yourself. Think about this as a race that you race with yourself. You're competing with yourself, with anyone else. Do not get too, let's say, overwhelmed about other experiences. Obviously, getting to know other experiences is good. It's perfectly fine. But you are not competing. Well, purely, yes, you are competing with others, but you are doing your own path. Okay, and if it takes you a bit longer, don't worry. If you need to build a stronger profile, do it. Do not hurry. Enjoy the process, and actually take care also about your mental health, which is nowadays it is a little bit complex. Okay, so well, thank you so much for staying here with me this Saturday. It's been a pleasure, completely pleasure, to stay with you. I hope that I have solved most of the questions that you had about this AD5 Graduates competition. If you have more questions regarding that, I'm going to open the mic now, or at least try, because we have so many people, it's going to be difficult. Okay, but I will try to solve at least 5 live questions with you. In any case, we will have this video uploaded on the YouTube channel, and also I will open a post on LinkedIn for you to make as many questions as possible, and I will be devoting some time to that, probably a few hours of my Christmas time, to solve as many questions as you have. So I will try to do my best, okay? And yeah, that's basically it.